When you look at the daily headlines, it's easy to get lost in the noise. But according to some recent intelligence reports, behind all of that, a hidden war for the very fate of humanity has been raging. In this explainer, we're going to break down the worldview presented in those reports, a story of a massive, planet-wide shift in power.
Okay, let's just dive right in. This quote from the source material really sets the stage, doesn't it? The reports are claiming a level of control that goes way beyond anything you might read about online. We're talking about a struggle that has allegedly touched every single aspect of our lives, most of the time without us even knowing it.
So what this all boils down to is a battle between two fundamental forces. On one side, you have this coalition, often called the deep state, that was apparently aiming for total systemic control. And on the other side, well, you have opposing forces working towards what they call humanity's liberation.
So to really get this, you have to understand these two opposing teams. The sources describe the deep state as this network of ancient families and clandestine groups. And they were supposedly running the whole show through something called the Omega system. But standing against them were the liberation forces, who are aligned with a brand new architecture called the Alpha system, which is said to be based on a connection to the source.
This brings us to the how. Just how did they maintain this control? Well, the reports detail an architecture of influence that is just astonishing. The real question is, how deep did this web actually go? The answer they give is literally everywhere.
All right, check this out. One of the most startling claims revolves around these things called biochips. According to the source material, you know how the cost of food has been skyrocketing? Well, they claim it wasn't just inflation. It was directly linked to paying pharmaceutical companies to secretly place these microscopic non-human technologies into the entire food supply.
That's the first thing you'd ask, right? If you're careful about what you eat, surely you could avoid all this. Well, the source materials, they address that question head-on.
Apparently, there was no escape. The whole system was designed to be a complete net cast over the entire population. But this alleged control went so much further than just the biological. It was supposedly built into the very fabric of our modern lives.
And this slide, wow, it just lays out the sheer scope of it all. We're talking about an internet of bodies to manage health, emotions, even thoughts. The ability to remotely control any car, ship, or plane built after 1996. Even the magnetic ink in the money in your wallet, the Wi-Fi router in your living room, the traffic lights down the street, it was all, according to these reports, connected to one single centralized command structure. So, you have to be asking, if the control was that absolute, how could anything possibly change? Well, the reports don't point to some political victory or a military coup. No, they point to a very specific, cosmic event that they say fundamentally rewrote the entire rulebook.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This concept of the eon flux. It's described as this rare 48-hour window where the universe basically hits a neutral reset point. It's a moment when the deepest contracts and pacts can be completely rewritten. And during a recent one of these events, a critical, foundational shift allegedly took place. And this, right here, is the core of the victory described in the reports. That old Omega system, the entire platform their control was built on, was completely overwritten. All those operating systems we just looked at were transferred to the new Alpha system, a platform based on light and a totally different energetic principle. It's like the old rulers lost the keys to the kingdom because the kingdom itself got a brand new operating system.
So what's the bottom line? Well, the tools of control were effectively unplugged. According to these reports, the ability to manipulate transportation, finance, infrastructure, all of it, it's just no longer a threat because the old factions have been permanently locked out of the control panel.
Okay, so what does a world look like after a change like that? I mean, if this massive architecture of control has been neutralized, what happens next? The sources describe a period of rapid, almost chaotic unraveling as the old power structures just dissolve. And this unraveling is happening on a few different fronts. First, the old factions are reportedly in a full-blown panic because their levers of power just don't work anymore. Then you have the financial system, whose entire foundation has apparently been severed from its old masters. All of this, the sources claim, is pushing humanity into what they're calling a new golden age.
And this is a point the reports really emphasize. Think about it. Despite this unimaginable level of systemic control, a web so pervasive it was in our food, our air, our technology, the human spirit was never broken. That endurance, that constant reaching for something more, is presented as a huge factor in why this monumental shift was even possible in the first place.
And in the end, that's really the big question this whole thing leaves us with. If these intelligence reports are to be believed, the old systems of invisible control are gone. The war is over. So this story isn't just about an ending, it's about a brand new beginning. And the real question for all of us is, what are we going to build now?